Okay, good afternoon from London. Thanks for joining us today. We're just in the process of admitting the last few people into the lobby, but we're going to get started here on this webinar that we're presenting, the second in our series of webinars. Today we're going to be presenting and introducing our Travel Builder reservations management system. We're going to specifically be looking at it in the viewpoint of tour operators, and that's just going to be more in a B2C format than perhaps a webinar you may have seen previously. I'm just going to jump through and have a quick look at the agenda for today. So I'm going to introduce you to our team of hosts, and we'll do a quick introduction around the business open destinations before saving as much time as we can for Adam to be running through a live demo of the Travel Builder solution. Adam's going to be looking at our CRM module, which is built into the system, and how that can manage your direct customers. He's going to be looking into the sales process, which will be essentially making bookings within the system on small group style packages and other areas of our itinerary building module within the system. And then we'll also look into how those packages can be created using a little bit of supplier management and the areas around that as Travel Builder spans across the breadth of your business. We're going to be also saving some time at the end, hopefully for any questions and answers that you have. If you do have any, I believe we have enabled the chat. So you should be able to pop any questions into the chat as we go through. Just in terms of any sort of housekeeping, we've tried to mute everybody and keep your cameras off in order to save any sort of bandwidth on our webinar this afternoon, but also just because, just so you are aware, we are recording the session. So we've kept it just to myself and Adam, who you'll be seeing and listening to today. So I'm Tom. I work in the commercial team here at Open Destinations, which means I spend a lot of time working with tour operators, destination management companies, and various other sort of travel businesses around how our solutions can fit in their system to enable the management of those packages and really sort of grow your business using technology to drive efficiencies. We've also got Adam here, who's sat next to me, so I'll allow Adam to introduce himself.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, good to be here in the London office with you. My name is Adam Buckmaster, and I lead the product development here at Open Destinations, including our Travel Builder product, which you're going to be seeing today, along with our other applications, including Itinerary mobile app, which has a separate webinar on, incidentally, next week. And I also work with the team who trains up our new clients, so companies, tour operators and DMCs like yourselves, who take on Travel Builder, implement it into their business. We have a team of trainers who ensure you can get the best out of the product. So in a small way in this hour, that's what we're trying to give you a little glimpse into today. So looking forward to showing you that.
And we do also have Nick on the call here, who's been coordinating the webinar for us and arranging for the various invites to be sent out to you. Nick will also be popping in perhaps some questions or some polls, which may pop up on your screen as we go through. If you'd like to interact with us or ask questions and so on, there may well be the opportunity to do that as we're going through as well. Just moving on then quickly into a bit of a brief introduction to Open Destinations. We're a privately owned business that we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. We've grown quite substantially in that time. We're now a team of over 600 people. We're headquartered here in London, which is where Adam and I are sat today. But we also have a large engineering centre based out in Goa in South India. That houses a lot of our support teams and software development teams, as well as some business support service teams as well, which I'm happy to share more information on if you'd like to learn more about that. We now have well over 100 customers using our software platforms, Travel Builder, Travel Studio, and they're installed all over the world, really. We're quite a global company now with customers spanning all the way from West Coast US right the way through Europe and Asia and down into Australia as well, which really sort of means we do have to, and we do offer that 24-hour support, which means you always have the ability to connect and contact our teams, no matter the time of day and no matter which time zone that you're in. And just a brief introduction to the various products and services that we offer. We have an enterprise reservation system, Travel Studio, and we have a slightly tailed down version, which is what we're going to be looking at today, Travel Builder, which is designed for businesses really getting started with their first or second reservation system installation into their business and enable them to grow and build upon that with, as I was saying before, efficiencies driven from technology. We also then have a itinerary mobile app. This is designed to be delivered to your passengers or your customers and enables them to have access to their itineraries on their mobile phone. It also gives you the opportunity to ask for feedback or survey questions, give chat functionality so that they can get in contact with you if they need to. And our reservation systems, Travel Builder, enables you to push those itineraries directly from the system and into that mobile app, giving you sort of a really enhanced customer experience for your guests with very minimal upfront sort of additional effort if you're using our Travel Builder product. I did also mention about our business support services. We power a number of large, sort of small or medium and large businesses using our business support services, offering customer operational tasks such as sort of online chats, as well as finance operations, data and products loading into systems as well. We're going to be focusing on Travel Builder today, but I just mentioned itinerary in slightly more detail as we will be running a webinar on itinerary at a later date, and I'll be happy to share a bit more information about that if you'd like to sign up and see the itinerary app. Just as a brief overview of the types of customers that we work with, there's a number of businesses on here that I'm sure will be well recognised by yourselves. You know, the likes of sort of Top Deck, Abercrombie and Kent, Explore in the B2C tour operating world. But we do service a wide variety of businesses that I'm sure you can sort of gather from looking at our customer ward here as well. And just before I hand over to Adam, I'd just like to give a brief sort of overview of sort of Travel Builder in a pictorial format, just to try and give you an understanding of where Adam is going to be running through with the product. So at the very bottom of the screen here, you can see sort of this is a supplier management module or area of the system where you load in your various different services and components of itineraries and manage those contracts if you have special rates with them, or if you have any allocations, or if you work with those suppliers on request. And then you pull those into the sort of itinerary building part of Travel Builder to create either tailor-made FIT tours, or indeed you might do set itineraries, small group departure tours, escorted tours, which is one of the areas we're going to be looking into today. And across the back of that, then that enables you to track your finances from your expected costs incurred, your expected revenues or receipts taken, and push that out into finance and reporting. We also have that CRM module that I mentioned we're going to take a brief look into today for managing and keeping a track of your direct customers. There is also a B2B format, but we're going to focus on the B2C today. And of course, then that serves out into your sales channels. So whether that's e-commerce solutions online, or if you respond to inquiries over the phone or via email, there's various formats of managing those inquiries and pushing them through into bookings, which is where we'll spend a bit of time looking at today as well. And at this point, I'm going to hand over, and Adam is going to start sharing his screen, and we will start looking into the live demo.
Thank you, Tom. hopefully you can all see my screen just coming onto yours right now. What we're looking at here is the dashboard that you would log into perhaps at the beginning of your day using Travel Builder. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of the kind of data it manages, or it helps you manage. And we're going to go through, as Tom hinted, an example of putting together a package, a proposal for your B2C clients. So we'll be going through some areas of the system with an example in our demo database. But just to orientate you a little bit, across the top here, we've got our menu. So within the menu here at the top, it's divided into separate sections, the names of which will give you an idea as to what sort of data you can hold. So I'd say on the whole, we'll focus a little bit to start with on the CRM side of Travel Builder, where you can manage your customer information, and it does manage your direct customers as well as any B2B clients you have. You may deal only B2C, only B2B, or a blend of both. Travel Builder will let you do as much or as little of either as you wish. Then on the product side, the application allows you to load in the contracts that you have with your suppliers, and also to package them together into itineraries, into tours, which can then be set to run on specific departure dates or on any date within a given season. So there's a lot of flexibility as to how you can sell. But the scenario we're going to look at today is a pre-built package. It's going to be in Italy. As you can see here on the screen, we can see packages accessed. These are some of the tours that we've built in the demo system to kind of give you an idea, whatever your destination, hopefully you can apply this to how it would work within your business. And obviously that's something we're happy to explore with you further in detail after the session. So with this menu here, we do set Travel Builder up with a number of different user groups. So let's say there's different members of your team using the system. Some might be most interested in the product side, some might be only interested in the dealing with client side, and some perhaps on the accounting team might be most interested in having access to the financial side of the system, which Travel Builder also allows you to manage and report on. So these different sections are shown or hidden according to the user group that the user is part of. So if I go over here to the right-hand side of the screen, I'm logged in as Adam, and Adam is an admin, therefore he can see, or I can see, all of these different pages. Whereas if you were just a product team member, you wouldn't see any of the setup, you just see product and perhaps some of the reports. So it's contextual to who logs in, as you'd probably expect, as well as the menu being customized to who logs in. I also have my own custom dashboard. So this dashboard contains a number of items or widgets on it. For example, a quick link to the last few packages I've accessed within Travel Builder. So as I say, could be Italy, could be Australia, could be anywhere. But they all will appear in this widget here in various views. You can also see the bookings that you've created. So these are, whether it's a quotation stage or confirmed through to traveled or even cancelled, you can quickly search the last few bookings that have been made either by my logged in user or by any user within the system. And you can also filter that down per department, and you can even kick off the process of making a new booking. So that's something we will do during this demo. But initially, just to give you an idea, this is something that as an individual user, I can move these around, and that will be stored as my own personal view. If I'm in the admin group as well, I can get the benefit of this quick view of how many sales we've done today. Obviously, this is a fictional number, given it's a demo environment, but for you, I imagine the at your fingertips type of information of how many bookings or how much the bookings have generated today or this month or last month. Could be per user, it could be per department, and it could be whether they're actually confirmed or whether they're still only in inquiry or quotation stage. And that's the kind of information which is built up in the system based on the logic and the pricing that you define and you load into it. So it's really a tool to help you manage all of that, both on the supply side and on the sell side. And there are more detailed reports that you can export from the system using the same information, but in formats that can then be exported to Excel or PDF and so on. So that's just a brief overview of this homepage. As you've seen, I'm logged in as Adam. Our fictional company here is ABC Tours. So if you picture your own logo there, that's what you would see if you were using Travel Builder. And then lastly, just in terms of orientation, the search function up here is a quick way of getting around those various menu items that you saw. So within the product menu, obviously you can see service or supplier. So you're free to click through on that menu, or you can start typing the name. And as you can see, it's just matching with whatever I type. So if I want to do a quick package find, that's something I can jump to there. So it's a way of opening either a page within the system to search for something, or indeed, and this is where we'll switch to CRM mode. You'll notice this is all within the same browser tab. I can quickly type the name of one of the customers I have in my system. So you would assume, I assume you'd all have a database of existing customers that you would then add to over the course of time. Travel Builder will be the place where you hold all that information. So if I type ahead Adam, as well as being a user in the demo system, I'm also a passenger. I get to travel to all sorts of places. And this is my record. So I can see once I enter into this record, and I can check which pages I have open within the browser. I've got my passenger record. I've also got my package record. But for now, if we just focus on the record that you can hold for an individual, if we start from the beginning, go to the details tab. As you can see, it's divided into tabs across the top here. And again, that will vary depending on the level of access you have. As an admin, I can see everything. Perhaps as a product user, you might only want to see the details. So that all depends on the user group you log in as. But the information that you hold, as you'd imagine, everything from name to address to nationality and status. So with status, it's a way of very quickly taking a customer offline. If you're no longer working with, it could be a customer, it could be a supplier. The statuses can allow you to control whether or not you can make bookings with them. You can also store their address, or perhaps addresses, even if they have more than one address, which is valid for different seasons within the year. You can store, everything from email to phone and more besides. As I say, you can also store multiple addresses. You can, as we were just looking at, you can see a list of all of the bookings or quotations that are in your system. Now, these may have been made by you from the back end, which is where we are now in the back office Travel Builder. It's also possible as an add-on to have a portal that customers could book through. In any case, when the booking is made, it arrives here in Travel Builder. And then what we're looking at here is a list of those bookings, some of which are on option, and one of which is confirmed here. And it will allow me to total up the sell price across those various bookings for Adam Buckmaster. And I can even see some totals down at the bottom here, converted into GBP, which is the default currency for this customer. You can also incidentally work in multiple currencies, as we're going to see over the course of this demo. But whichever currency or currencies you sell in, you can manage the exchange rates between your buying currencies and your selling currencies, for example, and you have full control over that within the system. In a passenger record or a customer record, you also have the ability to link a customer with another customer. So if there's perhaps a couple that always travels together, or a family unit which travels together, as you build up this database with rich information about where your customers have traveled to, what their likes and dislikes are, you can also link them together using the relationships tab. You can also store any feedback they have. We call it complaints tab. It could equally be positive feedback. but that's something you can store here, link to the record and act upon it accordingly in conjunction with reporting and things like that. You can also store other information about perhaps frequent flyer information or likes and dislikes, dietary requirements. That's all information that you can store against the record so that whenever you make future bookings, you can instantly recall all of that information. Anything that doesn't then fit into a field can be saved as what we call a note. So in Travel Builder, the notes are either notes which the system has generated, when you create or update the record, or this is just a way of you adding in either blocks of text or even attachments. So if you wanted to attach a file and link to this customer record, you can do so here. So brief overview there of the customer side of things. As I mentioned, you can also see a similar part of the system where you can maintain your travel agencies or any other type of B2B clients in a similar way, and you can maintain the individuals that work at that client as well. So there's the full sort of individual and company management there within the CRM side of the system. So from there, what you would generally do is, whether you're on the phone to this customer or in an email conversation, we've seen the existing bookings. You can also kick off a new quotation or booking for this customer, and you can directly search for a package. So that's what we'll move to in just a second. But having looked at the CRM, the customer side of Travel Builder, we're now going to have a quick look at the supplier product package side of the system, because that's what you're going to use Travel Builder to then offer to your customers. So as we briefly saw here in the middle, we've got our packages accessed quick links. So we can jump to any of these packages, which we'll do now, just to have a look at how they are constructed, and so that you can hopefully relate this to something similar that you do, again, whether it's Rome and Tuscany or a completely different destination. So again, we have this record which takes up the screen, but even as I jump around the system, I can still jump back to Adam's record to check something, and then back again to my Rome and Tuscany package, for example. So here, I've created a tour which is 8 days, 7 nights, and I've given it a name, a code, a description, which I can also maintain in multiple languages. I classify it as a particular type of tour or a package. Now, this is something that we give you some standard options for, but if you want to add further categories, that's something that can be configured very easily. Just depends on your unique way of classifying your product. Again, with the status, you can determine whether it's on sale, off sale, or whether it's one that you're particularly pushing. And there's lots more besides that in terms of how you can classify the trip. Is there a lot of walking in it? Are there a lot of sites? Is it a cultural tour versus a see the sights tour? Is it a bit of both? You can also record the destinations that it goes to. So within Travel Builder, or your instance of Travel Builder, you can determine all of the different destinations that you sell. So clearly that can differ company by company. We've taken an example here of Tuscany, but we've also got places like Australia in the geo tree. So again, that's something that we can tailor to your particular product set and destinations. And as you grow as well, you can add to that geo tree following the same format. So the idea is that any product that you set up, whether it is a hotel, an excursion, a guide, or a combination of those and more, which is a package, you'll map it to one or more destinations, which you can then use to search within the system. So key elements of this package are how you're going to sell it. So in this case, we've set it up so that you can sell a single rate, a triple rate, and a twin rate, and you can even vary that by gender. For example, you can have a twin male element, which will allow people to book onto a twin share, and then for an additional person to book and then be roomed in the same room. And you can, if you wish, filter that down by gender, as a lot of our clients do. Within the itinerary, this is where, when you initially build the 8-day trip, you start by just designing, and again, just scribbling down in text very quickly what's going to be happening on each day. And then what we can see from these arrows are that you can go to more and more levels of details. So this is really at the product design or trip design stage. You can divide the days into what we call items. So there's going to be a cultural walk in the heart of Florence. There's going to be dinner. There's going to be some accommodation. And then we can expand that. And at that point, that's where you start populating this itinerary with different services from suppliers that you've loaded in the system. So after we go through a process of booking, I'll just point out where you store those in the system. But essentially, what we call a package here in Travel Builder is, if I expand out to the sort of darker blue level, a package is comprised of a number of different services, from restaurants to accommodation to excursion, to effectively whatever it is you want to include in your trip, or in this particular trip. So I've expanded even further, and I've gone down to the level of room type. So I can now see that at the hotel in Tuscany, these are the different rooms that different bookers would get, depending on whether they book single, depending on whether they book triple, or depending on whether they book a type of twin. So there's lots of detail in here. So we obviously won't go into all of it, but hopefully this gives you an overview of in the designing the trip phase, what you're including. This is what you're including within the trip, and you can also indicate whether there are any optional upgrades that you wish to sell on top of the included tour. So, for example, here it's maybe quite small on your screen, but here on day 3 we've got an Uffizi Gallery entrance ticket, and that is marked as an optional, which means that I can choose to price that separately over and above the included tour price. And then over on the right, this is the details section. So whenever I click on, for example, Uffizi Gallery on the left, this is where I can edit the details. I can add some notes. I can add a technical itinerary, which is perhaps of use to your staff, as in, what time does it start, or even if we haven't booked it, what time would this normally start within the day, so that the day can be planned out almost militarily, using timings and notes in there. So there's a couple of different timing sections, if it's involving a pickup and a drop off from your transport. So lots of fields here. You don't need to use them all, but hopefully shows you the flexibility of the system as you're building this up. So this is one I've obviously already built, but it's easy to do so by adding on a day here, perhaps an extra day in Florence, adding a service, which, as I say, might be anything from a hotel to an excursion to a guide. And what that is doing is that's pulling from, I'll pretend to add one, I won't go as far as adding one, but if we say Tuscany accommodation, then it's already pulling back those hotels which you already have in the system, which means that you can very quickly take a template tour and customize it. As I say, it could be adding days, it could be switching hotels, all of which can be done here at the design stage. Now, as part of this eight-day trip, what I'm going to have to do if I want to sell it or be able to sell it is price it. So when I price it, I can choose a travel date range. I can even choose booking date ranges. So I can also do special offers. For example, a price for departures between March and May, which is valid now, and I could even do a price which is valid at the last minute, which is perhaps a little bit less. And up here at the top is where I define my validity dates. So here we've got one row, but you could have multiple different rows, so that you can vary prices by date, by season, by a booking period, and even by market if you wish. So you can sell the same trip at a USD price to the US market, or a GBP price to the UK market, and so on and so forth. So down here at the bottom, what we can see is that each of those, what we call elements that we saw before, the single rate, the triple rate, the twin rate, each of those has a set price that you can use the system either to generate this price based on what the cost will be, plus a markup, or you can enter in these prices depending on what you've already decided in your brochure, for example. And those rates are then verified and they're approved for sale. So it might be someone's job to put the trip together and someone else's job within your team to approve those rates. You can even see at the bottom here, anything that you've marked as an optional. So common use of this would be an excursion or an entrance, and that will be priced separately. So if I, as you'll see when we book it now, if I want to book as a single, then I'll be paying $3,749 for the tour, plus 30 if I wish to also take the Uffizi entrance. Lastly on here, we've got the ability to take this package template, this itinerary template saying day 1, this happens, day 2, that happens, day 3, we go there, and to make that operational. So we create departures, and we can do so on a specific date. We can do so on multiple dates. So we can choose specific departure dates within the calendar, like so, just at random there, but you can see those dates popping up as I select them. Now, the beauty of that is that having built your itinerary, which let's say that the itinerary never changes, of course, in reality, it can do, and we'll come back to that in a second. But once you've built your itinerary and you're ready to sell it, then you can create these departures. So we've created a 15th of April, 11th of May, and you can create as many or as few of these as you wish. On this screen here as well, you get an indication of the kind of operational control you have over this. So you can see how many places you've sold on each of the dates. And then of those, how many of the customers have paid and how many haven't paid yet. So the on option tells us that of the 18 people who've booked, they're all still on option. Probably because this is our demo site, no one's paid yet. No one's actually paid any money for the trip. But we can see what the projected costs and the projected sell is. So clearly we need more people to book onto this before it becomes viable. So that's really a good indication as to your profitability on each of these dates. And accordingly, you can choose to take some off sale. You might choose to only guarantee the departure after the trip gets 20 packs booked on. So you can also manage that within Travel Builder. Couple more things you can do here. I mean, there are a lot of image libraries within Travel Builder that you can link to your product, whether it's your packages or whether it's your individual hotels, excursions. So here's just one that we added to this Roman Tuscany trip, which will be visible as you book it. And you can also set up your standard cancellation policies, payment terms, pickup times, all of which then gets fed through to the booking of this trip. So, very brief overview there of how you would set up this package, which we've called Roman Tuscany. Now, I'm going to leave that open in case we need to come back to it. And I'll go back to my homepage. So at this point, the scenario switches. So we've set up our customer, we've set up our package, and as you can see, there's more than one as well. This one's also in Italy, just so we can see a little bit more about it. And now we're ready to take a booking or to register a quotation in the system. So to do that, there's a couple of different ways. You can either create a new booking from there, or you can come into the booking menu and say, I'm going to create a booking, but it's going to be contingent on me actually finding availability for a particular package. So at this point, there's a lot of fields here, but essentially all we need to do is just indicate how many people are traveling. If we want to as well, we can narrow it down by destination. And if we know who we're quoting for or who we're booking, we can even add in the customer information at this point. So there's me again. As I say, I do get to travel on a lot of these trips. So I'm saying that it's me and one other person, and we're going to be rooming separately in single rooms. So because I've searched for Italy and not Australia, it's come back with a line for each of the valid departures of this trip. Now, it could be that you've set up a package, like in this scenario, with specific departure dates, in which case this is going to bring results back based on the dates that you have searched for. I just searched for everything, but you might say the client needs to travel in April, and at that point it would only bring back these two. Or you might say, well, they have to go to Rome, in which case that one's going to be out. So you can see that obviously the results are coming back based on the search that I've made, which I can recall there and I can filter. But let's look at the kind of information that's coming back here in Travel Builder. So you can see obviously the date on which it departs, how long it is. You can hover over here to get the full description, and you can expand it out to get more information. So lots of information here. Obviously, if this person is set on booking this trip, then obviously you can just carry on and book it. But you can also see the availability remaining on each of these. Obviously, we've got lots of spots here, but it could be that your availability is governed by the size of the bus that's carrying them round on the trip, or some other criteria. You can also see which optional excursions are there. You can see who's booked on already. So if someone calls you up saying, well, I want to book on, can I just make sure that my friend Adam is traveling on this trip? So Adam's there, Mr. Test is there. So this is bringing back information about all of the passengers already on this 15th of April departure, which could come from different bookings. And as you can see, these are all different booking references within the system. Some of them might be direct bookings, some of them may even be B2B bookings, as you can see from this Trail Finders example here. We can also see a bit more detail before we proceed about what's happening on each day. That's exactly the same information you saw in the setup, but this is the view that your reservations agent would have within your team. And again, depending on the size of your team, it might be the same person, it might be a different department. So this is really just confirming with me as the user that I've got all the information, or that Travel Builder has all the information it needs. It knows who's traveling, at least the lead passenger, and therefore it knows which currency to sell in. At this point, if we do have more information, we can add it, whether that is pulling in other passengers who are already in the database, if you know that information. If you don't, then the lead passenger is enough and you can fill in the rest later, or you can fill it in here manually. So the kind of information, as we've seen, is the name, nationality, gender, but also date of birth, which is, of course, if children are involved, that's required. But obviously, if the system knows that passenger already, that customer, then it'll fill in any information it knows, including things like dietary requirements. So it's telling me at this point, because I've done so many bookings with the same name on the same date, it's just checking, are you sure you don't want to work on this existing quotation? And because it's just something we're using for a demo scenario, I'm going to press on and proceed and say, yeah, that's fine. I want to book 2 in single. If I change my mind and we do, want to room together, then I can, of course, select from whatever's been set up, and I can put the 2 people in there. I can also choose whether either or both or neither of those people want to take up the Uffizi optional. So in this case, we don't, but obviously that's something that if you have larger groups, then some of the group might wish to take up the upsell or the optional, and some might not. So that's also possible to have deviation within even the same booking. So then at this point, we begin to enter into operational mode. Now, it may be, depending on your sort of booking life cycle, it may be that this is just a quote at this point. And I imagine that if you wanted the customer to confirm, then you'd want to take a payment. So that's all, as we had a brief look at, that's all managed by setting up standard payment terms in the system. So you may take a deposit of $100 upon booking. So before that time, it's only on option. As we can see at the top here, we're now in a booking. So that booking is of status on option. It's not yet confirmed, but it has a file number, a reference ABC37, which will remain your reference point throughout the whole life cycle of this booking. What you can also see is that rather than just day 1, 2, 3, 4, you can see it's translated into the actual departure date +1, +2, +3 days, and what is happening on each of those days. Now, anything in blue is an included component in that package, in that itinerary. So it could be, as we can see here, the restaurant, the accommodation, the academia gallery, and as we go through here, you can see the bottom section is populating, and it's populating based on what has been booked. So if we select a simpler example like the excursion, then down at the bottom here we can see that what is it that we've booked at the academia. It's the ticket, and that's for 2 packs, because 2 packs are booking onto this trip. And there we can also see what the cost was. We can also override that cost if we wish. And the cell is showing us 0 because it's included in the overall package price. Now, if for whatever reason you wanted to add something additional, to add an additional restaurant, or if the client asks for something extra, then you can add. There's lots of buttons here at the top, one of which is to add another service into the itinerary. So just because you created this booking from the package template doesn't mean you can't modify it and change things around. So the example we're looking at here, this has been pre-populated with everything that was included in the package itinerary. But you can also get to this point, and indeed we've run a separate webinar on an ad hoc sort of package scenario, whereby you take a request from the client and you can put these things together on the fly. So you can bring in Hotel Porta Faenza, you can add in this excursion, and you can do it on a more ad hoc basis. The way we're showing you here is on the assumption that these preset, pre-built packages, even if it's just as a template, are a starting point for you and something that you can sell as exactly that, as a package. And so just to reiterate, this screen here for ABC 37 is the operational part of the booking. Now, if we want to move this on to a confirmed booking, there's probably a couple of things we need to do. Firstly, you'd want to take some money. So for this, there's a number of financial functions within Travel Builder. Now, Travel Builder itself is not making or taking the payments. That would still be the role of your bank, your accounting system, whether you use software like Sun or Sage or Xero or one of the many others that we've already integrated with, or something that we haven't worked with before. The role of Travel Builder is really to record for you and to help you record the money that you think you should be taking and the money that you think you should be making. So by pricing the packages, by recording the contracts with the suppliers that you have, Travel Builder knows essentially how much it thinks you should be paying. So that's a process that obviously is quite in depth, or can be quite in depth, but it's the record of all those financial transactions, both on the buying and the selling side, is something that can be exported out to a CSV file or to an external accounting system on a regular basis, whether it's daily or twice daily. So that's something that can be configured within the system. What we're doing here is we're just simulating taking a receipt, so receiving money, whether it's in cash or more likely as a bank transfer. You can even use our integrations with payment gateway, such as Stripe, to take those payments on the fly, so that you don't have to record here and take it externally through Stripe. We've actually integrated with that payment gateway and a number of others to allow you to take that credit card payment, for example, and when you take it, for that to be recorded here. So this is recording the fact that we've received that money. Then we can go on to the header tab, and the header tab contains lots of details there, reminding you about where this booking came from. What we're going to do now is going to change it to confirmed, and in doing so, that can, if you wish, trigger functionality such as sending out a document to the client. such as sending out requests to the suppliers. So we work with a lot of companies, as you've seen. Some of them work in such a way where the itinerary is exactly as it is, and they're sure that they can get availability with those suppliers. Others won't necessarily promise a specific supplier, they'll say or similar. And then at this stage, then once the client's confirmed, Travel Builder will go off and try to confirm, and you can see these green tick or check marks, will try to confirm with each supplier if there is availability. Now, the way it does that is threefold. Either you are storing in Travel Builder your contracted allotment with that hotel, or secondly, you may know that you can get availability, for example, with a guide, whichever it may be, so you can auto set that to pre-confirm. But for those cases where you don't have the availability, you have to go and request from the supplier. What you can do, and the process that you would follow here, is you can manually email out a request to the supplier. So if I type in supplier, that will pull from the available list of templates, which is a set of predefined documents here. So on the client side, for example, you can choose to send them out a proposal, a confirmation, and or an invoice. And likewise, on the supplier side, you can send through a request to them. Now, when I say send, you can pull from the client or supplier record the email address, and then send them. That will go through your email server, and then it will also be recorded as sent in this file, so that if you're dealing with this today, but you're off on holiday tomorrow, then your colleague can pick it up, can see within this file what's been sent. So just to give you an example of how that might look, this is just an example of how you can pull through images and text. So it might be images from the individual components that make up the package. There's a few of them here in Siena and in Florence. Obviously, the formatting will differ. Your logo will be different depending on your branding. So we do work with you to customize the standard templates to a certain extent. But we generally find that whether it's an itinerary proposal, a confirmation, a request to a supplier, a lot of the companies we work with will start off with our standard templates, and then we'll build from there. So really, as an overview of the operations, obviously there's lots more to talk about, and amendments and cancellations and payments and refunds and credits and lots beyond that. But the last thing I'll just remind you of is that then, as you've confirmed now with the client, you're going to want to take information about the other people on the trip. For small groups, it's quite easy to do that manually. If you do have larger groups, or particularly work with B2B clients, you might also benefit from the passenger name or passenger details import function, so that if you had a group of 10, you could import it all at once and manage any amendments like additional packs or fewer packs if people leave the trip. But yeah, as an overview, that's really taken us through the flow of the customer record, building a package that we can sell, booking that package from Travel Builder, and then beginning to confirm all of those services with the supplier. So I think at that point, having whizzed through a typical booking, I'll hand back to Tom and Nick to see if we've got any specific questions in the chat, if we've got time to tackle any of those.
Thanks, Adam. Thank you very much. As you mentioned there, it's obviously quite a comprehensive system that spans the breadth of travel businesses. We looked at a little bit of supplier management, we looked at a little bit of finance, as well as making bookings. I think it's a key point to pull out that there's a number of areas that Travel Builder can assist you with, and we're happy to go into more details of those with you if it is something you want to find out more about. I mentioned also that we did run a webinar recently where we looked into how Travel Builder helps in a B2B format, so that's sort of selling to other tour operators or travel businesses from a wholesale perspective. managing the clients in that way, as well as looking at FIT inquiry, tailor-made build sort of itineraries, as well as sort of what we're looking at today in terms of the set itinerary escorted tours approach. So there really is a number of ways in which Travel Builder can be adapted and fit into the ways in which various different travel businesses work. I think that the next real thing for us to just jump into and have a look at is how we work with you to implement and get you up and running on the software. I think good implementation is just as important as good software, really. And so how we work with you on that is one of our implementation consultants, which work in Adam's team here, will spend some one-on-one time with you to run through some workshops, understand your business. We have a number of standard settings or standard configurations of Travel Builder, which they will recommend the best of which that can be fitted to the types of business that you do and run. But obviously also, as well as Adam was saying, there's a number of customizations or tailorings of that we can do during that implementation process as well. And that's really during those discovery workshops where we find out how that's going to work best with yourselves. They'll then run a number of training sessions, and they'll be delivered in a bit of a hybrid mode where we'll run those predominantly online in training sessions delivered a little bit like today in Microsoft Teams or in another sort of video diary or video call format. But it's supplemented also with pre-recorded training sessions that you can access on demand, either during the implementation or if you've got new team members joining at a later date. Sort of in a year or so after you've implemented it, those pre-recorded training sessions will be available to you, as well as online documentation and user guides and manuals and so on and so forth. So there's a wealth of knowledge that is delivered to you, both sort of in a customized one-to-one format, but also available on demand when you need it as well. There is a cost associated with our training and implementation. It is usually a one-off cost, but at the moment we are offering it to be a cost that is spread over the course of your first year. So that works out at £835 per month just for that first year, after which those will stop. And then there are the software and licensing fees as well. It is quite a customized solution, as we've been mentioning today. So just to give you an idea, we've given you a starting price of £950 per month. Everything you've seen today is part of our standard sort of core modules, but there are a number of modules that you can add on to in addition if they are relevant. So that could be additional user licenses, for example. I mentioned at the very start of the call, there's various sort of e-commerce modules that are available, so you can start selling these packages online, either in B2B or B2C formats as well. And there is also the itinerary application as well that's available as an additional module. So we will work to make sure that quote is tailored and custom to your needs. But just in terms of giving you an idea, I wanted to ensure you had that information. If it is something you want to explore with us further, we usually find a 1 hour consultation is usually the best next step. You've seen sort of a generic overview today where we've shown you some demo data. What we'd like to do really is spend a bit more time understanding your business, understanding the different areas of the business of Travel Builder that you might be using, and providing maybe some more in-depth demos into areas such as finance, different areas of building itineraries or supplier management, areas that are of particular importance to yourselves, and we'll work with you to make sure that we present those and demo those to you in order to give you confidence that Travel Builder can power your business. I believe there's going to be a little bit of a poll if it's coming up. If it's not, you're more than welcome to also just drop us an email. Our details will be on the screen in a moment. And we'll get in touch with you to arrange a time that suits you best. Just as a quick reminder, we do have the last of our sort of webinar mini series coming up, and that will be on the 4th of April, the same time as today. where I'll be showing you and taking you through our itinerary mobile app product and how that can be delivering those itineraries that Adam was just designing and selling in Travel Builder, and delivering those in mobile format to your customers. So just, I'd mentioned before about questions. I think we're all out of time at the moment. I haven't seen any questions come in, although they may have done and I've missed them, in which case I'll come back to you personally. If any questions do come up in the next couple of days, you're more than welcome to send us an email. My email address is quite nice and simple. It is tom@opendestinations.com. So I just want to say thank you again. Obviously, thank you for Adam taking us through, and thank you to all of you for spending some time with us. And we look forward to speaking with you again soon.